Welcome to Episode 9 of Beyond Juneteenth, Tracing Families After Emancipation. One of the most remarkable stories in American history is how formerly enslaved people sought not only freedom, but ownership. Land represented independence, security, opportunity, and the ability to build a future for generations to come. Today we'll explore how African Americans acquired land after emancipation, the challenges they faced, and how those records can help genealogists reconstruct family histories. For millions of newly freed African Americans, freedom without resources remained uncertain. Land ownership offered a path toward true independence. A family that owned land could farm, generate income, pass property to children, and gain a measure of protection from exploitation. Many freed people viewed land ownership as the ultimate symbol of freedom. One of the most enduring myths in American history is that formerly enslaved people received 40 acres and a mule. While Sherman did reserve land for freed families along the southern coast, the policy was temporary. After President Andrew Johnson restored much of the land to former Confederates, many black families were displaced once again. The loss of this opportunity shaped African American economic history for generations. Despite setbacks, many African Americans pursued land through federal homestead programs. The Homestead Act provided access to Western lands for those willing to settle and improve the property. These records often contain valuable genealogical information, including family members, residences, witnesses, and migration patterns. Economic hardship, violence, and discrimination encouraged many African Americans to leave the South. The Exodus movement represented one of the earliest large-scale black migrations after emancipation. Many families established farms and communities in Western states, leaving behind records that genealogists can trace today. Land patents are often the earliest proof of ownership. For genealogists, they can identify exactly where an ancestor settled and when they acquired land. These records can serve as the starting point for a much larger land research project. Once land entered private ownership, county deed books became the primary source for tracking transactions. A deed may reveal a spouse's name, identify heirs, or show when a family relocated. Many genealogical breakthroughs come from carefully following property records over multiple generations. Not every family was able to purchase land. Many became sharecroppers or tenant farmers, working land owned by others. These systems often trapped families in long-term debt and prevented wealth accumulation. Understanding these realities helps explain why some ancestors appear repeatedly in agricultural records, but never in land ownership records. Despite obstacles, many African Americans successfully established thriving agricultural communities. These towns became centers of commerce, education, religion, and political leadership. Their stories demonstrate extraordinary resilience and determination. African Americans accumulated millions of acres by the early 20th century. Unfortunately, much of that land was later lost through discriminatory practices and complex inheritance issues. Understanding these losses is essential to understanding modern wealth disparities. Heir property cases can be extraordinarily valuable for genealogists. When ownership becomes disputed, court records often document entire family networks spanning several generations. These records frequently preserve information unavailable elsewhere. Land research requires examining multiple record sets. No single document tells the entire story. When combined, these records can reveal migration patterns, economic conditions, family relationships, and community connections. Many genealogists focus only on names and dates. Land records allow us to place ancestors within a physical landscape. Understanding where families lived often helps explain marriages, migrations, and community connections. The story of black land ownership is also the story of generational wealth. Families that successfully acquired and retained property often gained opportunities unavailable to others. Land ownership affected future generations long after emancipation. Every deed and land patent represents a person who was building a future. For descendants, these records are not merely legal documents. They are evidence of courage, ambition, and perseverance. The transition from slavery to freedom was complex and difficult. Yet despite enormous obstacles, many African Americans acquired land, built communities, and established legacies that continue today. Their stories survive in the records they left behind. Thank you for joining me for Episode 9 of Beyond Juneteenth, Tracing Families After Emancipation. If you've enjoyed this presentation, please like, subscribe, share, and follow.